While President Trump reacting to this breaking story, FBI agents raiding the Maryland home of former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton. Federal agents were also seen removing boxes from his Washington, D.C. office. And while Bolton is not under arrest, sources close to Fox News tell us that this investigation involves classified documents. President Trump reacting to this breaking story earlier. Watch.
I don't know about it. I saw it on television this morning. I'm not a fan of John Bolton. He's a real sort of a lowlife. He's very bad at what he does, but he worked out great for me because every time he doesn't talk, he's like a very quiet person, except on television. If he could say something bad about Trump, he'll always do that. He's not a smart guy, but he could be a very unpatriotic guy. I mean, we're going to find out. I know nothing about it. I just saw it this morning. They did a raid.
Well, hi, Emily. You heard President Trump there reacting to this raid, not saying nice things about John Bolton. Ambassador John Bolton, who was President Trump's national security advisor during his first term, and President Trump have had a long-standing feud since he was fired during that first term. Bolton's been a frequent critic of the administration, but it's important to point out as you see this raid that took place at Bolton's home in Bethesda, Maryland this morning, and at his office in Washington, that judges, magistrate judges in Washington and Maryland would have had to sign off on this for the FBI to do this. FBI agents didn't just wake up this morning and say, let's raid John Bolton's home and his office. It's interesting, though, because while the FBI and DOJ are not commenting, I want to show you some posts this morning on social media. As this raid was going down, that's what the FBI director had to say. No one is above the law. FBI agents on a mission. His boss, the Attorney General Pam Bondi, she posted, America's safety isn't negotiable. Justice will be pursued always. And then Patel's deputy, Dan Bongino, he posted, public corruption will not be tolerated. Now, we're told that agents are looking for potential classified documents. We're also told that these documents may be related to Bolton's book. Back in 2020, the Trump Justice Department sued over concerns that there might be classified information there. The Biden Justice Department dropped that about a year later, dropped that lawsuit a year later. So at this point, we don't know if there are any classified documents there. We don't even know if John Bolton's going to be facing charges. He's not under arrest. He's not in custody. He's not facing charges. But as your guests will probably note, this information at some point likely will be made public in some form. Not the classified stuff, but maybe how many documents they were looking for, and then it could go before a grand jury. That's usually what the Justice Department would do here, and we'll watch and see where we are from there. But as of now, I don't want to get too far ahead of it. John Bolton's home and office raided, and we've not heard from him. We've reached out multiple times in multiple different ways. No comment from the ambassador now, Emily.
David Spunt, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Paul Morrow, walk us through what had to have happened for this raid to happen today. What was the predicate on this?
Okay, so operationally what happens here is the Bureau agents got to get this stuff together that they believe creates probable cause. What does that mean? It just means that the evidence they're looking for is probably there. The application has to be specific in terms of what you're looking for and where you might find it. It doesn't just say we're going to look in Bolton's house, right? Then they got to go in and they got to execute the search warrant in that way. That is to say, they have to stay within the four corners of what they've articulated to the judge, the magistrate judge. And by the way, don't be thrown by the term magistrate, okay? That's just a fancy name for a judge at the federal level that kind of does administrative stuff, but it's still a federal judge. Federal judge has to okay it. They go to execute the warrant. They take what's in the search warrant. I think here's the rub. A couple things. First of all, if you see anything in plain view, it's settled law that even if it's not in the warrant, you can take it. Furthermore, if you encounter stuff that is outside the warrant but that you think is pertinent, maybe indicia of a crime, including an unrelated crime, you can either get another search warrant, you can sometimes get it right from the scene if you can articulate that there's a danger of that evidence being destroyed. My point is it could be a rolling thing. Cases are built from the ground up. You start small and you start building. So that's what happens here. Then you take that stuff, you got to articulate on a form, there's a dedicated form, you got to take that back. It's called the search warrant return. And you show it back to the judge. You say, this is what we got. The judge has to verify, okay, everything you did was legit. You stayed within the search warrant. And now you see, do we have probable cause to go for an arrest? Is it now probably true that there was a crime? And that'll go, like David Spunt said, likely to a grand jury, which is an extra stopgap in our system. You get the grand jury indictment, and then you go forward. None of that is guaranteed here. We want to be clear. So, yeah, this is there to safeguard against a fishing expedition. All I would say is this. We don't know what the derivation of this was yet. They could have been looking at something completely different and encountered this and said, wait a minute, John Bolton's name is coming up in this? Because it reportedly is coming out of the CIA world, right? Ratcliffe apparently said, okay, you can go with some of this evidence. That gives me pause. And so I think we should keep our powder dry to see where this goes. We're going to hear further. At some point, the documents will come out. And then we'll see what's there. All I can say is that we know there's a lot of big stuff coming. We've been hearing about Comey, we've been hearing about McCabe, we've been hearing about Brennan, all the big names relative to Russiagate. I hope this is not a low-level thing that in some way, shape, or form diminishes the import of what I think are going to be earth-shattering cases coming in the future.
A very quick follow-up, Paul Morrow. So what I'm hearing is that there was an affidavit required that was submitted to the judge that authorizes a search warrant that specifies probable cause that a crime was committed and specifies exactly what items in the home or in the office need to be seized that would prove this crime. At one point, would that affidavit be unsealed so the public can know exactly the specificity articulated about why this raid occurred?
Yes. So that doesn't mean you're going to get the classified stuff itself, but you can get a very anodyne document that says indicia of classified documents. You could even get what it's related to. You know, the language can be a little bit fuzzy. You have to be specific as much as you can be. But we'll probably, reportedly, it's classified docs. And look, you know, I don't want to denigrate that. You know, it's not like, oh, he's got classified docs. What's the big deal? Having worked in a classified environment, I had the TS clearances and all of that. It's serious as a heart attack. I used to have a stroke if I thought, oh my God, did I take a piece of paper out? You can't do that. That is really, really important. And if it turns out that the former ambassador to the UN had top secret documents lying around in his kitchen, then I'm sorry, it's indefensible.
Tommy, I want to talk to you a little bit about 30,000 view of this. The Attorney General Pondy has underscored multiple times that no one is above the law, and it's now been reported publicly that this probe was in existence prior to this, and that it was suspended under the Biden administration. So the point is that weaponization of justice certainly does not occur in implementing a raid or starting an investigation, but also in stopping a prior investigation. A lot to learn here.
None of that will matter to the rest of the media, though, because the rest of the media will run with, all right, he's making Texas redo their maps, he's sending the National Guard to D.C., militarizing the police department, and now he's going after his political opponents. That is going to be the headline all day long, I would assume already is, on every other network. That, to me, is the travesty in all of this. There's so many great things to talk about. It feels like resurrecting history. I think it's important to Paul's point. We need to get to the bottom of everything, right? And I really do trust Director Kash Patel and Pam Bondi that if they're doing this, they have reason to do it. However, my perspective as a news viewer is also, I think the American people at some point do get a little tired of investigations. They get investigation fatigue. And I think that it's important to maybe focus on the most important and prioritize those. Otherwise, it feels like you're throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm just saying now that that's what the media will be talking about undoubtedly through the rest of the weekend.